I'm going to travel back in time, find a dinosaur egg, bring it back to the future, sit on it until it hatches, raise it, love it, and then watch it mangle your lifeless and helpless carcass while I touch myself inappropriately.
What a fucking comeback. Oh my God.
I would say your aim is cancer, but cancer actually kills people. Jesus. Cruella Deville.
I was always curious about how good this other focus was.
Yeah, it's kicking ass.
Smooth, it's clean, it's very
It's gaping.
clink clank.
Clank, 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 clank.
Clink clank.
Hello and welcome to Strange Happy Hour. I am one of your hosts, Brother Jesterhead Metcalf. Along to my left.
The dispatcher, Mark Plover.
And on to the right.
John
He's just
Pettit,
being
John.
very difficult today. If I had a squirt bottle, I'd squirt you. No, bad John. Bad John.
Okay.
Of course, we come to you each and every week to discuss with you the nerdy video game news as well as the really cool tech news that has happened. Surprisingly enough, despite all of the craziness in our world, there's a lot to talk about. But we don't have time to talk about this everything out there. We don't have time to talk about the fact that Project xCloud will launch on September 15th, along with an assortment of over 100 games available at launch, which is kind of cool. We do not have time to discuss the DC animated adaptation of Death in the Family will also allow players to choose Robin's fate. Really cool thing I probably should have talked about this week, but I didn't. We also don't have time to talk about how the esports community is super upset over a partnership with the Saudi prince, the same Saudi prince who probably killed a reporter from the Washington Post. But we do have time to discuss what we like to call on this very show each and every week, moving forward from the depressing news of the real world because we all can't take it. It's coming in too much.
The important.
The
shit.
important shit. Okay, there we go. I think we'll start. We can go one of two ways, and I'm going to go ahead and pick up my topic first because mine will be quick. Yours, both of you, is kind of a toss-up as to what will be our top shelf this week. But in case you did not know, the game Fall Guys has released. As a matter of fact, we record on Tuesday. It came out today. People are super excited about it. However, it has gone through its own emotional roller coaster literally after launch, where the game has been review bombed and then unreview bombed, or I'll use John's words, positive review bomb and negative review bomb. So,
Not my words, I read them. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm not stealing
okay,
someone else's
good.
shit.
That's why there's
Also not in that order.
I was looking for another name. I was like, we don't have review bomb anymore. We have to come up with a word for positive review bomb and negative review bomb. But
why do we not have review bomb anymore?
because now there's two different types. It can't just be a review bomb.
Ah, gotcha.
You
I
don't know
see
what kind of bomb it is. Is it the good bomb, the bad bomb? You know.
You know, all those good bombs we
Bomb,
have out
bomb,
in the world.
bomb, 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 bomb.
Anyways, the game came out today and has been experiencing some server trouble because it is a cross-play multi-platform game that has the entire game is surrounding up to 60 players playing in one arena to try and gather crowns. It's their own version of a battle royale for like platforming with ganky controls. It looks great. Looks great.
Time.
What was it? The way that Dylan put it was, what was the old like Spike TV show?
Oh yes,
Ultimate Elimination Challenge or whatever, or something like that.
yeah.
I don't remember.
American Gladiators works too. Like,
Yeah, but it's all kinds of ridiculousness, you know. Like it
yes.
was, and the whole game is just based around that idea. It's amazing looking.
It looks great. I am certain that we will play on a special episode because
I'm sure we
it
will.
looks like a lot of fun, and we
About
can
it.
play cross-play. However, because of server issues, people hopped onto Steam and started negatively reviewing the game tremendously. And as a matter of fact, there's like a wonderful timeline in the article in our Google Doc that you'll have access to from Game Informer, where they go through how the company using the official Fall Guys Twitter is telling everyone, hey, like, we're getting review bombed. We know there's server issues. We're working out. Please bear with us. Like, just trying to kind of be nice. And then hours later came back because the community surrounding them came and just left a bunch of positive reviews. counteracting the negative reviews to bring the score back up, so that way that they were not going to be negatively impacted for arguably something that is a problem with so many games today. Like
Yeah.
you're talking about an online multiplayer game. It's not. They're not quite sure how the load is going to come in on their servers. They got to figure that stuff out. Like, come on.
So all
like,
the petty
these,
people were just on stream, right? Or Steam, I mean.
I guess so. Well, Steam and Metacritic, but Steam is where the real big culprit was for sure.
Yeah.
Which is weird because Steam requires you to play a certain amount of time in the game before you can review. Correct?
I don't know how much time that is though, and if it's different for particular games. I don't know if a battle royale game you only need like 1 or 2 hours, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I do feel like, most of these people, they play on PCs, and they have a nickname called the Master Race for a reason. They're mean.
Because they're Aryans. Oh, sorry.
No.
Oh, okay. No,
Not that
no.
far.
Nope. They believe they're Aryans.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
I believe
Okay.
they're,
So
yeah.
I'm comparing them to Nazis, folks. That's the joke. We can move past it. It doesn't need to be appropriate. It's
I
fine.
was like, that's a little far, but sure. I don't care.
It's getting weird fast.
I'm just it's really crazy to watch this happen, right? This game has actually been somewhat hyped up over the course of the past week because it was announced it's coming to PS Plus. This is your monthly, weekly, whatever reminder that you should go get the PS Plus games. This game's on there. It's really cool. And so a lot of people have been talking up this game of like, hey, this has potential to reach the same heights as something like Rocket League, where Rocket League got its start on console, on PlayStation, as a Plus game. Similar things happening here, and what a great hook. See, the Rocket League expert already, I wasn't going to say condemns, I was going to say.
Complete opposite of the motions I was
Whatever
just
the
giving
word-
there.
I do feel like if you're going to come out in
Just
that
props.
way with like being free on PlayStation Plus just to get people involved, you better have stuff in the backlog like to make things more interesting to get people to want to buy. Be like, no, dude, this is really cool DLC. Check this out. It's all free.
Yeah.
They just want people to buy the game and keep going. But if it goes stagnant, which is what I think happened with Rocket League, a lot of people will drop off and never come back. Because
Then it just becomes free to play, and then you can just play all the time without having to worry about paying for anything.
which is what they're doing now, but they came out with DLC they wanted people to buy, but there wasn't enough, so they had to revert.
Revert. What I find super fascinating, though, is how quickly this turned around. I think part of that is because a lot of people are having a good time with this game, despite some of the launch day woes. Also, I think have a brain cell and comprehension and maybe some empathy of like, oh, hey, look, this game I really like is having issues. I'm not going to go and just pitch a fit about it. Instead, I'll act like an adult and wait until they fix the issues.
Well, and I want to know who's sitting at their computer going, I was really looking forward for this to work. Like, my entire outlook on life was dependent on this, and I'm really upset. I'm like, this is the equivalent to finding out you got 4 nuggets instead of 5 from Wendy's. Like, chill out.
Yeah, it's okay.
Or Burger King, since that dude slapped that dude in the face.
Yeah, I just watched that video. Jesus.
My
They
God.
found him. He was fired from his job.
No, he was fired previously already. He was already
really?
fired.
Okay,
Yeah,
well.
he didn't get fired because of that. He just
Could be why he's slapping people.
So
probably, yeah. As a
coming back,
cashier, you can't be doing that.
so
Coming back
co-
to the Steam review policy.
coming back to the Steam review policy, does not seem that there is a minimum amount of time to be played to review it.
Interesting.
The minimum time, so Steam does show the amount of time played in a particular game on the review page for each person and each review that is made.
Which I really liked when I was looking at the Catan reviews, because when I'm looking at someone that's like, 10 hours to someone who's got 150 hours, I'm like, but it doesn't make sense. Like, they're negatively reviewing it, but they have 150 hours in the game, and I'm like, you had to like it somewhat to spend 150 hours on something. Jesus.
Well,
Or something
Reviews are
changed
so-
and you didn't like it after the fact,
yeah.
yeah,
True.
reviews are so frustrating from a user standpoint because we do look for that information. Like I know I personally do enjoy going to Metacritic and stuff to find that information, but between The Last of Us and what we're seeing now with Steam and the Fall Guys, like I mean, there seems to be something broken in the system, and I don't really have a solution off the top of my head. But hell, Metacritic had to remove reviews for the first 3 days of games. So like when a game launches now, they will not have user reviews for the first 3 days to prevent the kind of review bombing we saw here today.
Okay.
And like to also point out, like this game is taking off. Like it's number 1 on Twitch right now. It has a crazy player base constantly rotating in and out. Like these guys are going to fix the problem. So I don't really have a talking point other than the fact that I do think it's important to point these things out. A, when the negative is overtaken by the positive of a community, like hurrah, really happy all these people who came in and kind of helped that. But also, I guess just to put that out as a talking point of like, if there was a way to fix this, and we don't need to answer this now, but maybe for a later discussion, like how would you? Because there's something in the mix that has to change, or else we just continue down this cycle, and then it just makes the reviews useless. Like that's the other problem with review bombs. Is like you actively can't go to the Metacritic for The Last of Us Part 2 and you can find reviews if you look, but you can't just look at the aggregate score and go, okay, this is an accurate representation of what people think of this, because a bunch of people got pissed off and bombed it before it launched.
I think the weight should be based on your playtime.
I like that.
I
think
don't
that's
know
an
how
easy
they
one.
can. Well, for Steam they can measure that, but for everyone else who isn't playing on PC, how would you?
I mean, like if the game is on Steam, sure, like and that it's really going to be up to the individual platforms based on how they review it, that kind of thing. Metacritic could do the same kind of thing, now you'd have to link your account and verify that you own the game, which to me should be a bare minimum requirement.
I 100% agree.
You own the game, you have at least launched the game, but the amount of time that you have in that game bears the weight of what your review says. Like I said, I've got a couple 100 hours in Rocket League. If I come back and rate it a 1 star, my review should have probably a bigger impact than a guy who spent an hour playing it and said, "Oh, I didn't like it." Well, the game obviously wasn't for you. You know, that's a little different. If I'm on there jumping around, after 400 hours saying, "Yeah, this game's kind of gone to hell after updates," well, that's got different weight to it.
Oh, I agree. That's actually a really good point.
Not that I would say that. I love Rocket League.
He said he loved Fall Guys. You heard it here first.
I do love Fall Guys. I literally just purchased it while we were on this podcast.
Nice. I'm going to check it out probably when we hop off of said podcast.
We're gonna get it free because we're
I
not
already
lame.
did. It's already. It's got it installed in my machine. PS Plus, baby. But please let us know what you think about the Fall Guys Pozabomb and Negabomb. I don't know.
There you go.
Actually, that's a good one. I like that. Yeah.
And how the communities handle it. What are your thoughts? Do you think that there are solutions to maybe help these user reviews? Are you satisfied with the current systems? Please let us know in the comments, floating directly in front of me like a mustache. It's covering my mustache.
All right? So you had the Spirit Bomb, and then what was Frieza's version that destroyed the Earth?
I wish I could tell you. I cannot remember off the top of my head. Yeah.
You got a Spirit Bomb, and you got the other one.
Whatever his is, yeah.
Death Bomb.
Nega Beam.
Mega Bomb.
Moving on to our next topic. I think we're going to go to the dispatcher to discuss some Guy Fawkes masks, right? That's what we're talking about?
Yeah, totally. Like to help prevent you from getting spotted with AI and identified, except that you don't have to put on a Guy Fawkes mask, and you just have to use a program called Fox, and apparently AI systems cannot detect your face.
Boom.
Easy peasy.
We solved the internet.
So this has been kind of a controversial topic coming up, over the last year, 2 years. I'd say 2 years in particular, where AI facial recognition has finally gotten to the point now where it's getting creepy. Clearview AI being the biggest. I don't want to even call them offenders.
Our government's the biggest offender. China and Russia.
China.
Yeah, I mean, well, so the government does use a lot of AI platforms, and actually, leading up to this anyway, one of the articles I had looked at anyway, coming up to this was how face masks are preventing the government from being able to use facial recognition to identify you.
Well, people were even walking around with like makeup and stuff in specific patterns just to mess with the facial recognition.
Well, and the biggest one that they were talking about is like black face masks or whatever have a harder time of, or make it more difficult for the AI to identify your face than blue face masks. Well, so this has kind of become a hot button topic that any kind of disruption in facial recognition technology or weirdly overstepping the boundary kind of advancement, quote unquote, in facial recognition technology both make very big headlines. Clearview AI anyway really pushed the boundary of what facial recognition was doing, to the point that Google and Facebook, the two most privacy protecting companies, of course, I'm being sarcastic, companies anyway protecting your information anyway would come out and say to the point, we won't do this because it's morally wrong.
Yes.
So somebody decided that it was going to be it was worth taking a look at the algorithms and figuring out how to change imagery and change facial recognition or your face in an image to make it unrecognizable by the majority of facial recognition software that's out there. So most AI platforms that do facial recognition run through similar processes now. They're pretty well there, and an application developed by scientists at the University of Chicago's Sand Lab, quote unquote, that's what they call it, developed a program called Fox after Guy Fawkes from V for Vendetta. And
I only wish they had waited till November to announce this.
I know. It would have been so cool.
That'd been great. But they decided to release it now, and it's a program where you can filter your own pictures through it, and it will, in an unnoticeable fashion, like you look at the pictures anyway, like before and after photos anyway on this article, you can find down in the description below, and it is just straight up the same picture for the most part. There is a little bit of extra detail added, like almost like somebody took the sharpness slider and cranked it up just a touch there.
Yeah.
Because the one of Queen Elizabeth II is my favorite because it's basically the same picture. There's just a little extra shadowing to her face that makes it seem a slight bit different.
Well, it accentuates like certain wrinkles and whatnot, so it's not going to see it as clearly. Like that's what I was looking at her eyes and stuff. I'm like, there's something about it, but I can't really put my finger on it. I always tell Brett it's like the games we used to play at bars when we were younger, where you had two pictures and you had to find out what was different. This is like super expert level.
Yep. So the three big state-of-the-art facial recognition open platforms anyway that they had tested this against: Azure Face from Microsoft, Recognition with a K from Amazon, and Face Plus Plus by Megvii, the Chinese tech company. It was 100% success rate between different types of faces, including this picture of Queen Elizabeth II, as well as other images from celebrities that they pulled, ran it through. Was it Gwyneth Paltrow? I don't know.
It's Gwyneth Paltrow, Jessica Simpson, and the guy who plays McDreamy.
Yeah, that's the only way I can. That's the only way I know him.
I got this. I got this.
Too, yeah. It's interesting to see that it's a 100% success rate across different faces too. Now this is big, like this is definitely something to push back, I guess, against any kind of AI development platforms. No, don't get me wrong. There's an algorithm to this. It is a publicly published document from the university. So there is probably going to be some developer looking at this already and saying, how can I find a way around that? Realistically, I as a person can still look at this and identify it. Let me see what there is see if there's a way around it. So we'll see if there's anything that comes out.
I think that will be totally determinant on how many people actually use it.
Yeah, but that also depends on whether or not Facebook, Google, and Clearview AI's facial recognition platforms or AI algorithms, if they work in the same type of fashion.
Can you imagine if they bought that? I mean, I could totally see that happening. It's like gas cars buying the electric car. You know what I mean?
The benefit for that kind of argument, I guess, against that kind of argument is it comes from the University of Chicago.
The university likes money.
Well, yeah, but universities generally, in the sense of when it comes to research, they don't accept money to try to purchase out a product like that, especially when it's such a hot button topic like this. Like the idea is that they want to keep that prestige, that kind of, like image of the greater good there. Not to say that universities haven't sold technology or knowledge or information, out about how to do that kind of stuff.
We see those robots that MIT is building. Okay, we all know what those are going to be. Okay.
But most of that documentation comes out as, we're just making this open and available to the public, and then some company, comes in and takes the technology and builds upon it.
I'm super interested in what their rollout plan is, because a lot of companies are saying that you just won't have the capability of getting this out to everyone's hands to really be usable. And Fox is very much saying, no, that's not the case. We do have an idea of what to do here and how to move that forward. And I'm curious as to what's your approach? Because is your goal here to release it as a separate application that you could download and utilize that as a means to like craft your own photos and then upload? Do you want to try and build it into a pipeline of something? Because if that's the case, you would have to work with these other corporations. Like there's a lot of interesting approaches they could take though. And
questions here.
Yeah, well, and I also believe like on this very show, we are all avid consumers of technology. We really like it, but we're also very comprehensive and apprehensive of like what companies can do with that technology. And so I think you hit the right sweet spot, people like ourselves to get the word out. You better believe there's gonna be plenty of people who are gonna be open to having this on their phone. Like even if it is just a separate app that you filter a photo through and it just, hey, we saved it, here it is.
Yeah, and I guess the nice thing about that to some extent also is that it would give you flexibility in saying what services maybe you want to have access to that or not have access to that facial recognition. For example, Facebook, 100%. If it got rid of my facial recognition, I'm all good with that. Google, if it comes through Google Photos, I'm okay with that to some extent just because of the convenience factor if it's localized to me. Now, I know that their terms of service allows that in some anonymous fashion to be used elsewhere, but there's still a removal of anonymity there. But I think because I actually get a service back from that I'm okay with that. Facebook, I really don't care. I don't necessarily want my friends' photos of me suddenly saying, hey, are you this person? That's weird that, you suddenly found that from somebody I haven't talked to in 3 years, but, whatever.
Yeah.
There's certain companies, I guess, that I would agree or disagree with morality on to certain levels, which would be nice to have Fox use this as or give me the opportunity to have a version that's cleaned or cloaked and a version that's not. Cloaking specifically is the way that they describe this. Yeah, the term that they're using.
Yeah. Patrick Dempsey is his name, by the way. Yeah.
Okay.
I kept thinking Holyfield. I'm like, it's not Holyfield.
He really well known for his role as McDreamy, but my favorite role he's ever played is one of the college roommates in, what is it? Oh my God. With Honors, which is Joe Pesci, Brendan Fraser. Fantastic movie.
I haven't thought about that movie in years. Such a good movie.
Well worth looking into. I'll just leave everyone with this wonderful... Never mind. Doesn't matter. Yep, it's great. We don't need to talk about that. We just move on. You should highly recommend watching it. 94 is when it came out. But anyways, no, I mean, this sounds like technology that we talk a lot about what can we do as consumers to combat these larger corporations. And it sometimes feels like you're alone when you don't realize that we are in a world and technology doesn't necessarily need to work as something against us. There are other people who are actively digging into the stuff to find ways to protect ourselves in a way that may be more comfortable and consumer friendly.
And it might not be, this might be a bite that we're going to be having forever now. With technology being so woven into all of our lives, this is going to be, it really depends on how people use it. If it starts becoming a detriment, people will find a way to not make it a detriment anymore until someone else finds a way to beat it. And it's just going to be that ugly force of light and darkness.
All I'm saying is that if they can make Clearview AI useless and Hoen Tan Thought or whatever the hell his name is, won't be such a pretentious bitch, that I'm good. I'm down for it.
Yeah, didn't this interview you were just like, God,
you're such a piece of shit.
Dunk your own head in the toilet.
Yeah, no,
And I'm a nerd.
I don't know. Whenever we first covered this topic, I don't know a couple months ago. It was definitely very much a thing of, oh yeah, I won't sell to these government organizations and these companies. How are we supposed to believe you?
Yeah.
Mark Zuckerberg said, "Oh, you can trust me," but we've seen how that worked.
I got this.
Yeah. No. But any final thoughts on Fox? It's really hard to make sure I
hope
that
this comes into a mobile fashion where, it becomes a lot easier to use. It becomes literally as a filter on your camera, so it just automatically is done. That would be the key for this being useful to anybody.
That's possible. Your phone manufacturer would have to definitely get in on that quite a bit. The easiest way for them to do that, though, is if the University of Chicago finally decided to build their own camera app.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
It's called Faux Photo. Mm-hmm. No, Fox Photo.
Guy Photo.
Fox Photo.
Guy Photo.
Guy Photo.
There you go.
No. I don't know if I like that either. But it doesn't matter. Any final thoughts there,
Photo
Dispatcher?
guy.
No, I like this idea. Apparently, I'm sorry. The apps are already available for Windows and Mac. They're version 0.3, so they're still beta. You can download them from sandlab.cs.uchicago.edu/Fawkes, FAWKES. You'll see that down in the document listened from or linked from the description. So,
boom, perfect. Please let us know what you think about the Fox app. Do you think this is something you would utilize? Does this bring you joy? Do you find it kind of useless? Let us know in the comments, floating in front of Mark's face like a Guy Fawkes mask. I did it, guys. I did it. Moving on to our final topic of the show. Handsome John wants to talk to us about getting emails. I don't know why you're so hung up on emails.
I know, right? But the problem is that this company is definitely going to make your skin crawl. GetEmails.com is a company that is starting to scrape information that takes your real name, your real address, and your real email just from visiting websites. So the level of anonymity that you have on the internet has come to a total of 0. So right now, what?
You had something to say there, Dispatcher?
Oh no, I was gonna say Brave and DuckDuckGo.
Yes.
Both of those.
That's definitely going to be the beginning and end. Download Brave and DuckDuckGo and use those only.
Yeah.
I'll say that again at the end. The article that I read, Jezebel received a curious email from someone who identified themselves as the co-founder of GetEmails.com, an all-new audience growth tool for publishers, and they identify anonymous visitors for a website by providing publications like us with names, email addresses, and incredibly, home addresses of over a third of the people who are reading our stuff on any given day. And if that doesn't terrify you, I don't know what does. Because companies like the Daily Caller, which, anything associated with Tucker Carlson makes my skin churn anyway, in the hyper-conservative Western Journal, which this publication identifies as a misinformation mill. And these are people who are trying to identify you as a person based on what you're looking at and trying to send you super specific and focused ads, which to me only says the next step is going to be campaigns. And at which point, yeah, okay, so you want to know more about a candidate, I'm going to go and research all of them. Does that mean I want ads from every single candidate bombarding me on emails and phone calls and newsletters? No, I just looked at the competition. But you're also going to be hit with all of their propaganda as well. And if you thought you were confused in previous elections about what's real and what's not, it's about to get super frustrating.
It's even more terrifying than that, because what they're using is a specific cookie that also can have information involving your full name, your address, so they have a geographic location on you. I mean, quite legitimately, there is a concern of this could lead to people getting hurt or harassed in real life, not just from a virtual standpoint.
Well, there was an incident where Tucker Carlson doxed a news reporter who was supposedly going to run an expose on Tucker Carlson, who previously had to move because he was doxxed and people had, spray painted graffiti of anarchist symbols and stuff like that on his driveway, so he had to move. And so to get back at these people, he had them doxxed and then released that information, and then other people started harassing all of the people that were supposedly writing the story about them. And I'm wondering if this is how we got that information.
Isn't that a felony?
So here's the thing:
Is it?
It should be, but the problem right now is that we have such loose standards for how we handle harassment and digital
Our
data
government
gathering.
doesn't know how Facebook operates. How do you
That is
expect
very
them to
true.
write laws that are actually supposed to protect you with even more complicated
Well,
technology?
So data gathering is one thing. I was talking about doxing specifically, like releasing
Yeah.
that information.
I
That
mean, what's
to
the
me
difference
should be a
between
felony.
data gathering and doxing? Because all you have to do is pay for it.
I guess it depends on who it's released to.
Yeah.
Like
That's
to
where it
me,
comes
to me,
down.
if you're
gotta have
Tucker
those
Carlson,
markers on
and,
who you're selling it to.
to me, if you're Tucker Carlson, you have a massive Twitter following, and you have I don't know your own television show, and you decide you're going to release information about somebody. Well, maybe you should go to prison for a little while.
There's there's
a smidge.
always option for liability, especially for those companies. Especially that's why they have insurance for it. So if they say or do anything and someone gets hurt for it, they have something to lean back on, or they just settle the lawsuit. Which, yeah, they have money, so it's not a problem for them. But everyone else doesn't have any protections against that. So you say, for instance, the Daily Caller, they had 3.5 million unique visitors in the previous month. That means about 1 million people had searched that went to that website, had just had all their information taken and being given out to anybody, because they store all this and you could buy these from them. So essentially they have, I think, a culmination of like 500 million names, addresses, and based on the level of that you want to buy, you can just get email addresses for spamming, or you can get email addresses with names, or you can go to the full Monty and get email addresses, actual addresses, names, and whatever, and you get like bonus deals based on how much you buy per 10,000 or something.
Well, can I say that my favorite part about this is that you get 500 emails per month for free.
Yeah.
And that's
Now-
substantial.
And then to follow this up, to advertise, the way that they advertise this is they decided to make some product ambassadors on YouTube and let them push the product and explain it and say, oh, no, this is fair. We identify anonymous web traffic. But that's not weird at all.
Well, they also
So-
said that the purpose of it initially was supposed to be that, people who created carts and put stuff into carts and then left, either could have been they didn't have time, so they closed up and they deleted the tab, and then they never ordered it, and it was supposed to be like a reminder, like, hey, you were trying to order some stuff from here. Here's the advertisement for the stuff you were looking at. Are you still interested, essentially? Which, on the surface level, it doesn't seem bad, but when then you start saying, well, we found a way to figure out where they live, so why the hell not? And we'll just sell it to everybody. And that was literally how it was positioned. And I'm like, are you the most reckless person in the world? Yes, you are.
I think that's the key here, is that they are very much not caring about how their data is handled at the moment.
They said
believe
that they
they
want
are
to be a
providing
positive
service.
world, but they're not.
They believe they're providing a service that is necessary, that people want, and their excuses whenever you ask is it ethical is they do the blame point, right, where they're like, well, Facebook and Google do this.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but there's like terms of service that you as a user sign up for when you sign up for Facebook. Like
Or
you still
Google
have
services.
you have to opt into those things. What you are doing is actually creating a situation in which people would have to automatically opt in by just entering your website, and that's not how that works.
So the only loophole that I can see here, and I guess this is the devil's advocate, side of things, is notice the change in websites lately where anything that uses tracking information has to have an accept all cookies button.
Yes.
That could be their loophole. As part of the accept all cookies, the terms and conditions that you're technically agreeing to there, because I noticed it whenever I went to The Verge's website, for example, is you have to accept their terms of service when it comes to using those cookies. So if you're clicking the button that says accept cookies or accept all cookies, then you're accepting probably the cookies of their client or their vendor or their whatever, their
Whatever
vendor
other
here
thing they're using.
for that information. And that's going to be the loophole. Because if you've probably done that on one site, then you've already given consent for this other company to do it. Now, whether or not, like shady business practices could be brought up in court there, the fact that, you're agreeing to Verge's terms of services, but you may not understand that you're also agreeing to getemails.com's terms of services as well, like that may be a weird, like a loophole or maybe something for a judge to look at or a court to look at, but it's the way I see them getting around this.
Yeah.
All I know is it's bad when a founder of an analytics company by the name of Zach Edwards from Victory Medium literally called the re-identification and emails offers a dangerous and extremely uncommon, and they're using dangerous loophole in the U.S. Like, an analytics person who gathers data and enjoys looking at data is not comfortable with what they're doing.
Meanwhile, if you go to getemails.com's sign up page, app.getemails.com/sign up, there's a quote on there from Anthony Santiago, the director of marketing at Newswire. Get Emails is truly a breakthrough technology. I'd never heard of anything like it. It took us around 60 seconds to get the code on our website, and within 24 hours, we were receiving hundreds of new contact records every day. The best part is we can see what landing page they hit and target accordingly. It's truly incredible.
Jesus.
Which already tells me that Newswire is not going to be a great place to go to.
Correct.
I'm just saying that, you maybe should have thought before you gave them a quote and said, yeah, sure, you can use that on your website, but...
Well, initially, the Daily Caller didn't respond either. But don't worry, the guy that's been promoting this stuff is like, oh, they tell me they love it. And these people, they love it too. And I'm like, so you're speaking for them. They must really love that. Jesus.
God. No,
But, and the problem is you look at this and it's like, is this even really legal? Like, can they literally go through all this and scrape all this data that everybody had this level of anonymity for so long? Like, the type of porn you're looking at, or, what you're looking at on a grocery list. Are you going to be hounded for that now? Or I looked up one thing that Trump said, and now all of a sudden I'm getting Trump propaganda all over the place. Which, believe, happened. I literally have gotten 3 letters from that idiot, and I just keep ripping them up. And I'm like...
That's hilarious.
And if he would have put a stamp on there that was a prepaid, I would have sent it back to him full of, cement. Been like, enjoy that. Because, believe it or not, the people that send you these things that have a prepaid envelope, they have to pay for it by weight. So what they're expecting is to pay out, the whatever the agreement is to return the envelope. But if you fill it with a bunch of, I don't know, chopped up paper, they end up paying like 2 or 3 times what they expected to.
Correct. It's an interesting situation because your question was, is this legal? Technically right now, yes. There is no legal precedence to say that you can't do this.
There are rules, essentially, that are currently in place, but they're super loose, and essentially it says you have an opt-out feature. You are currently always opt-in until you opt out.
And until the federal government says that they have to, there is no option for that. I mean...
What a lot of companies have done is that they've all come to their own agreements. Like, Google, Facebook, all of them, they all understand how they want to mine their data, what they want to use for it. And so they kind of set up their own standard in which they all have an understanding of what it is, but they understand if we don't push these boundaries, legislation doesn't have to be made.
Right.
So we could do this close to towing the line and we'll be safe.
Which is...
The question here...
Which is also an interesting conversation, considering that we just had a giant antitrust hearing on Wednesday.
100%. Where does Get Emails fall in that? Because to me, this is definitely pushing it further. Yeah, like...
They cross the line way too hard here.
You're just way too far on that other end of... Come on. Like, I think my favorite comment in the entire article is towards the tail end. They talk about how, well, maybe we'll think about getting rid of the address information. Maybe that's not necessary.
No kidding.
I'm like, come on.
Freaking psychopath.
You're so far away from the actual, forest for the trees scenario here. You have no clue. You're just happy because you are able to make money off of this. And it's very apparent to me that they don't really care about the actual ethical implications of this.
It's the same platform that Clearview AI started out on too, of we can, the other company said they wouldn't, so somebody else had to, I guess, so we're just going to go ahead and do this.
Yep.
Great. Well, you're just suddenly going to create a ton of legal trouble for the big guys that said, we're not going to do this because it's a moral problem. Not to mention legislation is going to happen if we do this. So now Clearview AI jumps into play. The difference is I think Clearview AI took the right platform in saying, we're helping law enforcement.
Yeah.
GetEmails.com says, we're helping spam.
Yeah. We're helping all the people that you don't want to hear from and kill so many trees in the rainforest just for your enjoyment to look at shit you don't want to look at to your front step.
Yeah. As I go through GetEmails.com's homepage, even it's still some staggering stuff. 500 million email addresses and growing, quote is what they say. Third-party opt-ins is what it's entirely based on, and they can accurately identify up to 35% of U.S. internet traffic.
Yeah, it's massive. That's why I said
Terrifying.
3.5 million people went on the Daily Caller, and they're able to pick out 1 million of those people's information. And
That
the
is
worst
just
part
so
is that
nuts.
you also have other stuff like, for instance, this. I'll read this small paragraph. Get emails exploit some of the most deceitful services on the internet while managing to not quite become a scam itself. Across the internet, networks of exploitive websites, think healthinsurance.com, or a site that might promise to help you find an auto loan or health insurance or whatever, save information entered into their various forms and put it up for sale. And Get Emails just buys it. He says that it's amassed more than 350 emails and postal addresses by buying those companies, as well as the first and last name of the owners. So they're not just doing it on internet traffic on specific sites, they're also using other sites to amass even more.
Oh, 100%. I mean, if they're willing to provide more information, my concern here would be geolocation data. You know, like some news sites or whatever ask your browser, hey, you know, can I get access to your location here because, you know, like I want to give you news that's relevant to your location or something like that. Well, if you say allow, well, then you may have given now this company access to it.
Well, if anybody is more wants more of the technical jargon, there is more information on this Jezebel article that talks about the cookies and how they get the information from the scrambled cookie from, say, an email and look at that, are able to look at that data and basically transfer it into the information they want. But this is scary stuff, dude. And until, like, again, use Brave, use DuckDuckGo, whatever you can to protect yourself. And when coming up in the future, you know, Fox for your photos and stuff, because this is going to be an issue later on. You're not worried about it right now because there's not consequences. But when you have a dictator for a president who can do pretty much anything he wants, and then all of a sudden just takes over Clearview AI, and all of a sudden it's just Russia. Like, I don't know what to tell you. We're this close from becoming freaking Russia. Wake the fuck up.
Yep.
Also, you know, even if you don't necessarily want the tools or you just want knowledge, like the number one thing you can do to protect yourself in any of these scenarios is to stay educated. You know, we provide sources for everything we talk about for that very reason. We have our own takes on it. We have discussions, so that way you guys can get the idea of what these topics are in our own viewpoints. But, you know, follow the sources. We have the starting point for your research. Go from here.
Yep. So, as I guess one last point that I want to make here, in particular to something that I just found on their website. I also didn't know that California had this particular type of law, but they have the California Consumer Privacy Act, the CCPA. Gives residents to the state of California the right to prevent businesses from selling their personal information, and that is a quote from the from app.getemails.com/CCPA_details. If you go to the bottom of getemails.com homepage, it says CCPA opt-out. Literally, you can type in your email address and your zip code for them to be able to identify you and remove your information from being sold to providers.
Wow.
If you're
That
a
is
California
fascinating.
resident. Now, that is a California state law, and they have to abide by it to be a legal U.S. company anyway selling this kind of information. Every other state needs to look at something like this.
Yeah.
So the only objections
Absolutely.
you have is you have a guaranteed opt-out, or if you're in California, you can opt out specifically with all the information and pull your information.
Yeah.
Which
I mean,
I would like someone to go and like do an inquiry to see if they actually do remove that information, or if someone's information has been sold, because I have to wonder if they look at that like, okay, thanks, Jimmy. You know, it's just super scary.
It's neat to see that that's an option. It's just scary to think that, you know, if you're not a California resident, that suddenly that's not an option.
Well, and you don't have a choice. Again, I think the internet or the website opt-in, opt-out of cookies is the most terrifying aspect, because you can read their terms of service, but if you looked at them recently, they're long. They're filled with legal jargon. The whole point is to try and confuse you, so you choose to just opt in out of exhaustion. Yeah. And adding this to that is not something that I'm looking forward to.
And it also doesn't help that a third of our country is still illiterate, so I don't know how they get away with that, but
also
cool.
fair.
Well, you know, notice the percentages that kind of seem to correlate. I'm just, whatever,
Exactly. Please let us know what you think about Get Emails. Are you getting emails? Are you excited about this platform? Do you think it's kind of a piece of shit? That was a loaded question. I'm sorry. What are your thoughts? Please let us know.
Are you excited for it?
Yeah, absolutely. Please let us know.
Please don't let us know. Like, please just keep yourself quiet. Go to getemails.com and let them register you directly, so that they know who you are.
I'll put you guys on a list. How do you like it?
And you can go visit other sites that use it, like Newswire.
All I want you guys to know is that someone from Facebook reached out to me for a possible job opportunity in Seattle. So soon I'll be working on their end.
Cool.
But let us know in the comments floating above John like a crowned prince, because he's just the perfect prince. And of course, it's time for us to reach the conclusion of our show, where we like to call Last Call. Last call! You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. We still have no bell sound. We know it's very sad. Of course, we are in our own quarantine bunkers, as we will continue to be until the earth dies, I think, or the sun goes out, drinking our own special guests. So I have here an Austin East Cider's Blood Orange Cider. I've been enjoying it quite a bit recently because it has the perfect balance of sweet and tart, but not too overbearing. And then, of course, for a little bit of a burn, some Jameson cask makes. Just to the stout edition, not the IPA edition. Get out of here, garbage.
I know.
The stout edition, because you can never have too much whiskey in your life.
True that.
What about you, Dispatcher?
Well, speaking of not having too much, whiskey in your life, I have a 1.75 Elijah Craig sitting right here, small batch.
You guys work from home too much.
94 proof. Now,
94 proof. Ooh.
Yeah, it's a little on a strong side, but no, it's a very good whiskey. I mean, the small batch in particular that I have here anyway, I always enjoy my whiskey on the rocks anyway. It comes out nice and smooth. I enjoy it. I've been debating on switching up now that actually I probably should have done it just now considering I just poured, but the Basil Hayden 10-year rye.
Rye, yeah.
I enjoy it. As you can see, most of this bottle's already gone, so I'll probably be switching that here if I don't chug through this here by the end of the episode.
Makes sense to me. What about you there, handsome John?
Oh, we got our good old usual. I haven't drank it in a while, so I thought I'd bring her back.
I haven't drank it in a while, huh? It's been a minute?
Nope.
Yeah. All right, of course, our shout-outs for the week. Please join us on our Discord. As we were talking about, Fall Guys is the hot new thing. It's actually blowing up on our Discord currently now. So if you're looking for some people to play with, or you're interested in watching some people, we have tons of streamers, I'm sure, that will dive into it, as well as people on our Discord who are actively looking for other people to play with. Please join it.
If you see Tumbleweed, he's been killing it in the achievements department on Steam. He would love to play with you, I'm sure.
There you go. See, perfect. The old Tumbles himself. He tumbles, he fumbles, but most of all, he rumbles in my heart. Tumbleweed.
He's a weed.
Of course, we have our weekly deals, which has the Double Fine Humble Bundle. This one caught me very early last week. There's actually a couple others that came out, but I still like this because Double Fine is an excellent game studio. So for a total of $9, you get access to 12, 15, 18... 20 or 19 games. And that includes some very popular games such as Everything, my favorite thing in the world. Complete another segue. There is a guy on Twitter I follow who you should as well for gaming deals named Wario64. And every time the game Everything is on sale on Steam, he just goes, everything's on sale on Steam. And like the entirety of Steam. It's very funny.
Wow.
None of you laughed. It's okay. Gang Beasts, The Scapegoat 2, Full Throttle, remastered, Grim Fandango remastered, which I enjoyed quite a bit. Psychonauts Rhombus of Ruin, I also enjoyed that game quite a bit. Brutal Legend, which I thought was being announced a sequel the other day, but that's the one with Jack Black. So there's a lot of cool games here. $9, you have access to all these games on your PC. That's 19 games on your PC.
Can I say that Day of the Tentacle, I did not realize there's a hat for that in Rocket League, and I had no idea what the hell it was.
This purple tentacle?
Just purple tentacle with green things down the front. Green suction cups down the front. I had no idea what it was. Now I know.
That's really cool. There you go.
Yeah.
For our cool ass shit of the week, a teacher raised $16,000 on Twitch to cover the school's lunch debt. So the school was behind on a certain amount of money, and Zachary J. Chalk McCarter, I assume J. Chalk is his Twitch handle. Hopped on there and just raised enough money to help cover the difference so that the school can move on when it starts back up, because we're sending our kids to a fucking death trap known as buildings. But yeah, very cool, worth a read. I highly
Recirculation air
recommend checking it out.
systems.
Correct. And finally, for our question of the week, what is a property or brand that you think is just overrated in 2020? And I can go first because I thought about this.
Yeah.
So you had to,
say
on the podcast.
you had to put in 2020 on there. I could have given an easy one before 2020, but
Specifically 2020. For me, it's Tesla.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier too.
Tesla
interesting.
2020. I don't have anything specifically against the product. I think the product is solid. I've actually watched quite a few reviews recently that made me kind of wish I had invested instead of gone the direction I did in my car. But I also didn't want to spend like $50,000 in a car or more. So I think what I'm more bothered by when it comes to Tesla is the culture surrounding it recently.
Okay.
Elon Musk has really put himself out there to become far more trolly than he has in the past. Maybe that's just my own 2020 sensitivity to like the world being on fire and me just sitting here going,
come on, man. Him being the campaign manager for Kanye West, that sounds perfect. Like, come on.
If it's meant to be, let it go.
But on top of that, I've noticed the culture behind a lot of individuals online when it comes to Tesla and Musk just won't allow anyone to say anything ill will against him. And I'm not saying that you should be sitting here and slander an individual. Like, he is obviously a successful individual. He's grown from
Sex idol. That's what
he's
I
a
was
sex idol. That's right. I said it. I mean, he regrew back his hair. You saw his hair when he was at PayPal, and then look at it now. Come on.
Yep.
But I also feel like when you sit in a fanboy space where you can't handle your own favorite thing being tackled to the point where your immediate reaction is to lash back out at people, such a fucking turnoff. Like, I want nothing to do with the brand for that reason alone.
It reminds me of Trump, like just the way he is.
Oh yeah.
And,
Okay.
Like, if you're gonna be a billionaire and not be able to be above someone else, just criticizing you on any level, like, you're not worth even criticizing to begin with. But
Yeah. I don't know. Like I understand. I guess they're fanboys. Like, Tesla's always been called the Apple of the car industry, of the car world.
yeah,
They're first off, they act very much like Apple. They've been hit by the Right to Repair Act and a bunch of other things. Anyway, but they also have a cult following in the sense of, if you don't have a Tesla, then you're not the best. Apple users, and of course I've jumped on the Apple bandwagon, but and I've been debating on jumping on the Tesla bandwagon too. But
Of course.
like I never understood the whole blue bubble, you're not that you're not that great of a person, that kind of thing, or you're not as much of a person because you have to use regular text messaging instead of iMessage, you're driving a gas car instead of an electric car. I don't know. I get it. They do push it too far.
Yeah. Who's next? What you got?
You talk about overrated. I mean, there's a bunch of brands. Like, I feel like Apple in general is overrated. I feel like for the price of what they sell, I don't feel like you get your money's worth, at least not for long enough, especially since they apparently degrade your products on purpose to make you buy more. I feel like you don't even get your money's worth to begin with on that, and you paid more for this product. But I look at now a lot of what Android and PC has to offer, and I really didn't even bother looking until we started having a conversation with Mark about a lot of this stuff, because honestly I didn't care. It worked. I was cool. And then I started seeing the other side of things and seeing the positives and the minuses, and I'm like, I don't know if Apple's worth is exactly what it is. I feel like it's a lot of branding. It's a lot of, when it first came out, it had that aluminum look. It looked beautiful. It was sleek in design. It was different. And, only people that could afford it were the ones that had the money to buy it.
It's weird.
So therefore it became a status symbol more than it was a quality of product symbol.
It's weird. You're almost describing a Tesla Cybertruck.
Yeah. I mean, that, the unbreakable windows that someone threw a couple baseballs at and shattered. But it was Apple has also been like initially to me it was the snobby stuff, and then it became accessible to me because I could afford it, and I didn't feel that way, so it kind of blew past me at that end, and everybody else started buying more and more of them, so I was like, oh, it was that way, now it's more mainstream. But the way I look at it now, it's like more of a ripoff, and that's not saying you're not getting a good product, because I do enjoy their phones. I mean, I use an iPhone X for work. It's fine. I definitely feel like the more conversations we've had, how they deal with their marketplace and their business dealings, I don't feel like I'm really as comfortable with the company anymore. On a personal
That's
basis.
fair.
Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, Tesla and Apple definitely fall both in the same line of things. They're definitely a social brand.
Yeah.
Like the only reason that they have the following that they do is because of the people that own it, and the problem is that part of the bad reputation that they get is from the people that own them, because of this like cult following, that they have.
Yeah.
And they both follow similar principles, like with their own products. So I definitely understand both of those things, even though I'm an Apple user and I'm a Tesla advocate. I will not say that I'm necessarily an Elon Musk advocate.
I was about to say, you're starting to grow a beard, and I feel like your hair is getting really long in the back, and your name's
Actually,
starting to look like Dylan. It's weird.
Actually, I had a haircut. My hair is shorter than it was last time I was on here, or two times.
I honestly thought he was trying to say you had a mullet, but I like where he went.
No, if that was the case, I'd be driving the Tesla Model 3 for Dale. No, so my overrated brand, I'm actually going to go with Steam on this one.
Ooh, interesting.
So
Shots fired to the PC Master Race.
So I enjoy Steam's convenience. I enjoy Steam's platform, but I don't enjoy necessarily their business practices. I don't like the fact that, like they take such a large chunk as it is anyway from the developers, and this is the same thing we talked about last week too with Apple and the App Store and everything like that. Like I understand it.
But you were a fan of them.
I didn't say I was a fan of them. I said
He
I
didn't say he was a
understand
fan.
it.
He said he understood the
He
practice.
agreed with them.
Right. Apple.
He agreed in the sense of like it wasn't illegal.
Right. Like
It was a guideline. It was set up.
I feel like he's been a flip-flopper.
I ride the fence very finely in the sense that I understand the other side of the grass, or the other grass, but I don't necessarily agree with it from a moral perspective. I think that Steam should definitely put more emphasis on the developers and be able to give them more funds as far as that's concerned. They're not doing anything other than providing a platform, but devil's advocate side of that is the capitalism side of things is they've got the following, they've got people, they've got a social platform out of this now, they've got reviews, they've got the majority of the PCMR on this platform to be able to buy, sell, or buy and provide, your games if you want, to release them. So I understand it, but I don't agree with it necessarily. And I think it's overrated in the sense that while I may not have agreed with Epic's business decisions, in just buying up game companies, like in mass like that, they do provide more back to their developers. And
I wish that was the case.
Their store platform's actually pretty usable now. Like they've actually given a something that's actually pretty equivalent to what Steam has to some extent. So I think that Epic should definitely take the place there, but Steam, I think, is way too overrated for what it is.
Okay, I like it. Please let us know what you think is your most overrated property or brand here in 2020.
Now all you gotta do is get the companies to spread that money to the actual developers. That would be really cool.
You could put that in the description, floating right above.
Yep.
our
Inspect,
video.
edit the description, screenshot it, and put it in the
how this
comments
works.
below. Yep.
We've told you before. Inspect the unexpected. And until next time, cheers.
Cheers.
See you guys next Tuesday.
You're so dumb. Here.